Hey everyone, I just wanted to introduce you to a framework that we've been using within our company for years, and I've actually been using for my personal brand as well. Creating content is a bit of a daunting task when we think about what do I have to offer the world? What do I have to talk about? You, I used to get stuck all the time thinking there's such a limited amount of things, or I just have, these three big topics, and then what am I gonna like after I've kind of talked about those, I have nothing else and I have nothing more to contribute. And it used to, it used to be a bit of a scary proposition of, okay, if I start publishing content, am I going to run out? And then am I going to look like an idiot because I've run out? So anyway, we developed a content model that does a really good job of making sure that you will never run out of things to write and record and say when you're talking as a brand, a business brand, or as your personal brand. It's called the online course content model, and I'm going to take you through how we use it and how you can use it to start creating content right now. Cool. So you start off with a big topic, right? This can be anything that's an important topic or an important thing that you do within your business. So for the simplicity of the exercise, I'll use personal branding, but this can also be, Google ads or mindset coach or dating coaching, or there's all these topics that you speak about in whatever your brand is, whatever you're speaking about. You've got big topics, right? And these are the overarching things that you stand for, that you talk about, that you spend your time on. So you take your big topic and then you break it down into an online course format. So if we think about the composition of an online course, we keep it really, really straightforward. There's sections, there's modules, and then there's resources and bonus materials. So your sections are generally your main talking points. Your modules are the subsections, so the smaller conversations within them. And then resources and bonus materials are, workbooks or PDFs or checklists or different worksheets that you would use to get the person who's learning the course, for them to be able to actually go through your exercises. So this can be anything from check sheets to workbooks to additional training for tools and resources that are being used. It can be just about anything. But if you take this as a structure for your content, how would that work? So you break down your sections to keep it really, really, really simple. On your big topic, you're going to speak about what comes before, what comes during, and what comes after. Now, this can be done in a bunch of different ways, but I'm just thinking about the simplest way to break down a conversation or a topic in sections. So if we go back to our original personal branding example, this is how it would work. So your before is, getting started. What happens when you're thinking about launching a personal brand? What happens, what's the work that goes in? What are the things you need to think about? What are the things you need to consider? What are the tools and resources that you need to go through to do the beginning part? So for me, in the getting started section, there would be topics around mindset. There would be things about finding your voice, establishing your narrative. What is your story? What are your core values? All those things are things you need to know before you're getting your personal brand off the ground. So that's my before. My crafting my brand is kind of my during. So that's like, now once you've got all the basic stuff figured out, okay, what are we actually going to talk about? What is going to be developed as a result of this? So, crafting your messaging, actually developing content. So that's, creating videos and podcasts. So there's a lot of little topics even within that. And then the other thing you want to do as part of a personal brand is you want to build an audience, right? So is that a social media following or an email list, or how are you going to accomplish these things? So that's my during. And my after is, okay, now that you've created this material and you've got your voice and you started publishing stuff, now we got to figure out how the content's going to be distributed. You probably want to develop a personal brand website for yourself. And then at the end of the day, what are you trying to do, right? Are you trying to land speaking gigs or consulting contracts, or just be a more viable option for somebody? So all these things built into before and during and after. So what I encourage you to do is come up with at least 3 points for each before, during, and after. If you were to really break down your topic, generally speaking, there's between 5 and 10 things for each section. But even for it at its simplest form, just do it this way. Just have three for before, for during, and for after. Now, after you've got these modules, these mindset, find your voice, establish your narrative, crafting your message, you've got all these modules. Within those, there's a whole bunch of things that you need to understand to make them work. You need to understand the history and the backstory. You need to understand how to actually do it. You need to know what it means for you. And you need to know what good and bad looks like. So after you've got these modules, you're going to answer these questions. And each of these questions is going to be at least one piece of content, right? Because it is a different subject matter and they all kind of combine together to make what is that module, right? So if we take a simple example like building an audience, right? And we break it down. How does that work? How does one build an audience? So you can break down how, creating content and using ways to get it in front of more people and sharing it with people. That's kind of the how it works. And then why is it important? So that subject is all about, if you don't have that audience and you don't have an awareness when you go to ask for something or you create something or you're trying to get business, then all this content that you're making is not going to help you unless you've built up an audience, right? So why is it important? How it applies and how it connects to other modules or other topics that you're writing about. There's content around the best practices. There's common mistakes, tools and resources. So what are the softwares or what are the books that you've read or what are the videos that you've watched to get you to that thing? You can also look at and showcase examples of how it was done well and how it was done poorly. So you can make all of these pieces of content just on that one subject matter, and then you can do that for every single module. Every single piece inside of those sections will, I encourage you to answer all of these questions and make an individual piece of content about them, at least one. And so this is at its, I'm doing this example at its very, very, very bare bones. But the truth is, if you're talking about building an audience, you could break this topic down into building an email list, building a social media following, creating lead generation content. Like there's all kinds of smaller subjects within building an audience. So, these questions can be answered for each of those things or just as the build an audience as a whole. But you can start to see how by answering these questions and breaking down your topic that you want to speak about into sections and modules, now we're really expanding the amount of stuff we can make content about. It gets pretty big pretty fast. So even if you take it at its most bare bones, and so say you frame it up as an online course and you say, personal branding or Google Ads or creative copywriting or graphic design has these three sections. You come up with 3 modules that happen within each section, and then you have your 8 questions. So why it's important, how it works, examples of good, examples of bad, all those questions we just went through. If you combine those all together, that gives you 72 pieces of content on that one subject matter. And if you're aiming to put out one great piece a week or one big piece a week, that's over a year's worth of material. And that's not taking into consideration, if there's multiple tools and resources or books you recommend. That's not taking into consideration breaking down building an audience into all of its smaller pieces. So as you're putting together this online course framework, look at how other people are training in that same material. Look at how they break it down. Look at all the subsections. And I encourage you to just use what's already built. You don't have to think this up from scratch. Use what already exists out there. Frame it up for yourself. Add in the things that you feel are missing or take away the things that you don't feel are important. But if you do this, even just this will give you 72 pieces of content to make, which is pretty insane. And then you can, even if you don't want to expand on this, you could then take this as, okay, personal branding is one, and then marketing, and then, so if you have multiple things that you talk about or that you know about or you have experience with, this already compounds. And again, this is just at its kind of most bare bones. Most of the times that I've done this exercise with people, usually I break it down into 4 sections and at least 8 to 10 modules in each. And then with those 8 questions, you usually end up with over 600 pieces of content. And that's stuff that like people would want to know about. That's important pieces of the puzzle of the thing that you're teaching about. So yeah, go through this exercise for yourself. If you want to share it with the group, feel free. If you want to send it to me to have a look at, I'd be happy to take a look. But I hope this helps. All right.